Good morning, everyone, and thanks to Capital Link for giving me this opportunity to moderate a very interesting panel. You have already heard today several times the mentioning AI and digitalization, and this panel is all about that. My name is Lars Riisberg. I worked in digitalization in shipping for 35 years. So understanding that smart shipping is finally here is a big relief for me. Together with me, I have this great panel. We should have had 3 from the technology side, 1 from the authorities, and 1 representing the industry. But I would like you to give a short introduction from left to right. So starting from you, Amy. Could you?
Good morning. Hi. Sorry about that. Hi. I'm Daniel, co-founder and CEO of Windward. Great to meet you. I'm used to being in panels with Mark, so the way I would say this is whatever he says, I agree. I run a company that does shipping and AI, about 300 customers. We're traded here in London, went private a couple of months ago, and I think the future is bright. Let's talk today about what we can do about it.
Hi, good morning. Yarden from Orca AI. I'm also regular with Mark on the panel, so I'm going to be agreeing with him as well. Orca is doing AI for ships, autonomous navigation, better precision, situation awareness and monitoring, working with more than 2,000 ships today deployed there. Looking forward for this discussion.
Hello, good morning everyone. My name is Hurst. I have been many things in my life. I started off in the military, I was then in enforcement, but for the last 20 years, apart from this year, I've been in technology. So I've worked for Inmarsat, Thuraya, Iridium for the last 10 years, focused on the program to get Iridium GMDSS recognition since 2018 or before 2018. But for the last year, I've been working for the Liberian Registry as the Senior Vice President for Communications and Technology. So it's a brave new world for me. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name's Mark O'Neill. I'm CEO of Scholler Holdings on the ship owning side and CEO and President of the Columbia Group on maritime services.
Morning, everyone. My name is Kapur. I'm the Chief Executive here of 90POE. I'm a technologist and entrepreneur, so by definition, passionate about technology and even more passionate about really bringing technology to life in terms of how it brings value to ship owners, operators, and a lot of professionals in the maritime world at large. Looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, thanks everyone. So when I got the invite and I saw the headline of this panel, it says smart shipping is here, AI and digitalization. So that puzzled me a bit. I mean, for me, smart shipping is here states something binary. It was not here before and it will not come after, it's here now. So I will ask the panel one by one, is it here and why is it here now? How do you see this? What has happened over the recent times that make us believe that smart shipping is here? Should we again start from left to right? Amy?
Yeah, I don't know what smart shipping is. You know, it's a big definition. Smart shipping, smart chartering, smart navigation. You know, if you take a step back, this is a 300-year-old industry, and there's a lot of things that could be smarter. I think if you look at that process, soup to nuts, top to bottom, there's probably how do you charter faster? I think a lot of the charters might take a day, 2, 3, 4 to charter. I know we have a dry bulk customer, a very big one. It takes them sometimes 10 to 12 days to charter a ship. Not sure that's smart. How do you collate and cross-correlate information and make the right decisions? How do you manage risks on that? And then there's how obviously do you navigate the ship and do the route planning and the autonomous shipping and so forth. So I think shipping is a moving cargoes from A to B is a process that takes about 15, 20 verticals. And you need really to collapse the time to decision every one of these verticals. And I'll give you a very cool example. We rolled out last week a new product for document validation. So everybody knows that bills of lading, if you hold the bill of lading, you own the cargo. If you don't own it, don't hold it, then, good luck. And today the validation for that is manual. It takes 2, 3, 4 days. Today you can upload it to our GenAI agent, and in 30 to 60 seconds, you know whether that bill of lading is authenticated or not. And if you talk to marine insurance companies, they're pretty worried about that. That's, I think, a part of smart shipping. If you talk to big charterers, the validation of the documentation is a pretty big problem. If you talk to Kyle, I think, in the Liberian Registry, and I think one of the biggest in the world, obviously not, but the Panelists Registry asked all their ships to announce ship-to-ship transfers, which are validated by bills of lading. And if you talk about the oil price cap, that's also smart shipping. So I think smart shipping is getting here. I think it's a goalless goal. And I think my view is in the next 12 to 18 months, you'll see generative AI, and watch out also for us about that, change how people analyze and take decisions. My view, everybody will be a PhD level analyst with the best data in the world, able to ask questions, and the difference between very good operators and traders and very bad ones would be the ability to ask questions, not to do the answers. And I think it's going to be a very big difference, if that makes sense. I'm happy to talk more about that. So smarter people from in the panel. And I agree with Mark, by the way.
I think the main driver is connectivity. Eventually, you have a very big asset that for years was not connected to the cloud. You're going on board a ship today, you're going to the bridge, you're looking at navigation tools, all the UXs are from the 60s. They're not communicating, it's like black boxes. And I think that once ships started to become more connected to the cloud, you can start collecting data, much easier to start implementing technology on board. Without collecting data, you can't actually create smart shipping because you need to create this intelligence. I'll give you an example. We've been collecting data for quite a while. We have more than 100 million nautical miles of data, and you can start seeing patterns. You can start seeing patterns on how the ship is navigating, how it's been operating. You can start seeing that, an example that we saw is that many of the close encounters between ships, right after that follows a drastic change in speed, and right after that, the crew is increasing the speed and the RPM, and by that actually consuming more fuel. So if you can reduce that, and this is some of the things that we're doing, if you can reduce that, if you can reduce the close encounter events, and by that reducing unnecessary accelerations, you're actually reducing quite a lot of fuel. So without connectivity, you will not be able to collect this data and create this type of results.
To answer the question directly, yes, I think we're here, as close as we've ever been. And I also, my fellow panelists here, they quite accurately map out that smart shipping is a concept. We don't actually, there's no defined thing that smart shipping is. But one of the reasons, or the main reason I say we're here, it's done, yes, and we're close as we ever have been, is because I think we're at a technical nexus. We have, these days, we have very advanced IT, onshore, cloud. There's a lot of power there. And, I watch Formula One, and I now see a lot of sponsors dealing with cloud and technical innovation for Formula One, which to me demonstrates that it's become mainline now. I also agree with the comments about communications. Now, as you heard, I've been dealing with communications for the last 20 years, and I remember when we got IP into maritime, it was a really big deal. It was game-changing, because we love that word. We keep rocketing, to use another keyword, down this technology path, and I'll mention them by name. Starlink has made a dramatic change to the industry. And it keeps going. We now have Amazon with Kuiper coming in, and they're going to pair Kuiper with AWS and, bind together really high speed, really available because it's low cost communications with some very much mainline connectivity. So I think we have a full toolbox. We have all the tools we need to do what we want to do, whatever you think smart shipping is. We have it all here. And now, stacking on top of that, AI, it's becoming extremely interesting. So, as I said, we're as close as we ever have been. We've got a full toolbox. We should be able to tackle this beast. Yeah.
Okay, my turn. I think shipping was always smart. One only has to look at how we tackled COVID and other crises before that. Shipping has always managed to navigate geopolitical challenges, regulatory challenges, changes in a very smart way. Digitalization has enabled shipping as a sector to be smarter. There's no doubt we can do things better, faster, more cheaply than ever before, and some of the wonderful digital tools are available. Some of the founders are sitting on this panel. AI will make it even smarter, and AI coupled with HI, human intelligence, because the two have to go together. So I think the future shipping will be even smarter than it is now. I remember in 2021 we undertook a project for Saudi Aramco to make 2 of their vessels smart ships. And this definition then was, one was a jack-up rig and one was their oldest offshore supply vessel, which was given to us as a challenge. We spent about $50,000 on each, basically making these vessels smart. So they had all of the latest technologies, all of the latest optimization tools, every sensor, every camera, analog displays were converted to digital, and those vessels were really, really, truly smart. The cost of that has come down significantly. So you can make a smart ship now for about between $5,000 and $10,000. You can have a really sophisticated performance optimization control room facility for about $600 per month per vessel, which is unbelievable, and people just don't realize that. So the cost of smart shipping has radically come down. And just recently, over a year ago, we did a joint venture with the leading technology and IT supplier to the aviation industry, CETA, and created a company called SmartSea. Now, SmartSea is really where shipping gets smart, because shipping has to fit in to the overall logistics framework, and there has to be a holistic IT backbone in that logistics framework. And SmartSea is looking to bring all of that IT know-how, all of that really smart aviation into the shipping space, so that vessels can talk to ports, can talk to haulage, can talk to aviation, can talk to trains, all on a holistic IT international framework. That's really smart. That's when shipping gets really, really smart. So SmartSea is well on the road to that, and we'll be working with some of the individuals on this panel, hopefully going forward.
Yeah, look, I think I'll echo a lot of what my colleagues on the panel have said. Shipping, maritime more broadly, is a $1 trillion industry. Global trade relies on it. So for anybody to suggest that we don't have a lot of smart people doing great things to make that entire machine work, it would be naive of all of us. I think there's a couple of things that I'd probably want to point to, though. One is the way I see technology ultimately is an enabler. It's not an end in itself. And I think for all of us that are deep into the domain of how do we bring technology to real value, have to realize that it's not sort of putting tech out there. It's really relating that to what does that do for an operator? What does that do for an individual? What does that do for a company that's trying to operate, whether it's bulk vessels or container ships? And really, if we then bring that down to what is AI, digitization, automation more broadly going to be doing in terms of the impact to the industry, I think there's 2 aspects. One, which a lot of us talk about, which is rising the tide. So making a lot of that technology accessible, probably more cost-effective, more commercially applicable, whether that's Starlink, whether that's connective tissue, whether that's data, whether that's software. But I think the other aspect, which is quite evident, and that's true of shipping and maritime as it is of other industries, is I think technology appropriately used is probably going to drive a much greater wedge between the average and people who are truly outperforming. And I think we see that at an individual level. For many of us who develop software, it's been true in the decades past that some of the best software developers would probably be 2x, 3x more productive. I think some of my colleagues mentioned productivity is a big part of it. And I think what AI, digitization, automation more broadly is doing is probably taking that 2x, 3x outperformance at an individual level to maybe 5x, 10x. Over time, it might even be 20, 50x, as outlandish as that may sound to many of us today. And I think the next challenge is how do we make that wedge available to businesses to organizations, to the industry at large, rather than just driving individual productivity, which we are seeing already with many of us using AI tools and LLMs and sort of prompt engines, etc. How do we bring some of that in an easy, accessible manner so that a lot of that is available to businesses, which then can start to uplift sort of whether it's productivity or doing things faster, cheaper. But I bring it back to, it's not technology in itself. If we've got a poorly designed process, if we've got operations that have got a lot of bottlenecks and challenges, automating that gets us to worse outcomes faster, cheaper. So ultimately, we do need to come back to the basics of, do we have the right processes in place? Have we simplified how we operate? And then smartly bringing automation and smartly bringing technology to get there faster, cheaper, in a more efficient and a more consistent fashion. So that's kind of the lens I would probably want to bring in terms of what technology or digitization probably does more broadly.
Can I try to, first of all, congratulations on your new role, right? You got your new role in leading many POEs, so congratulations. Maybe I'll try to thread the needle a bit between, because let's have this like a cool discussion, because we don't want people to fall asleep listening to any one of us. So I just want to try to thread the needle between what Carl said and what Mark said, what Yarden said, and what Mr. Kapur said. I think it's quite interesting. Actually, today I would bet my bucks that most shipping companies, maybe Mark knows better than me, don't really analyze the shipping data they have. I'm sure they do it on a ship-by-ship level. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure they do it on a fleet level. And that comes back to what Yarden said, because of what Kyle said. Because these ships aren't connected to the cloud, most of the data analysis is A, limited by the data you have, which is not what you have from your ships, and B, by your querying capabilities, which are very low. And I think that's where also what Ab said is really, I think, coming into play here, because these LLMs and AIs, what they allow you to do is they allow you to interact with data in a different level and also simplify that. Everybody, not technical, so everybody can write English, I think. English becomes, the language of engineering versus Python or Java, whatever. So perhaps if you thread the needle and have connectivity of data from ships, connectivity, AWS, cloud, on a fleet level, and make that accessible to decision makers, I think probably you're able to understand much better, to your point, Mark, and connectivity to the rest of the logistics, the bigger picture, but what your fleet is doing. And I would bet my bucks you go to the top 50 operators and tell them, hey, what is your accessibility to that level of insight on this level? I'm sure it's not there, but I think in the next 6 to 12 months, it can be there, actually, if you thread that needle.
Go on, Yarden. Go.
No, I think it's actually already there. Like, we have many customers that they are collecting data and tremendous high-frequency data from the entire fleet. And then there is a level and a layer of data analytics. Simple data analytics, AI data analytics. I think what we start seeing and where it's going to go ahead in the next 12 to 24 months is that we're going to start seeing data that comes also from other fleets in order to enrich the data and then provide even better insights.
Cool.
I'll give you an example.
i.e. benchmarking.
Exactly. Example, a ship goes into English Channel experiencing bad weather. Start pitching and rolling, there is increase in risk. This data can actually be captured and be shared with other vessels or approaching the area in real time.
Very cool.
I think, just picking up on that, we're at a data collection point, and a lot of these digitalization tools and optimization tools allow us to collect vast treasure troves of data. And certainly on a fleet-by-fleet basis, that data can be harvested for the clients, and vessels' performance can be compared to other vessels' performance and can be even compared to market. But true data analysis really is only possible through AI and true fast data analysis. And that AI is now giving us that opportunity. Of course, the question is, you've got to be extremely careful to insulate that data as between clients. So in the case of a ship management company with 450 vessels under management, one client quite obviously does not want to share his or her data with another client. So data insulation and protection is critical. And also creating an environment, a captive AI environment that is not exposed to leakage outward or inward. And that's the challenge. And that's why we, as an organization, the latest hire has been at huge cost ahead of AI to put that governance in place and to put that captive AI system and environment in place so that all of this data can be harvested in a fast, efficient, safe, insulated way for specific clients. And that's the challenge. That was always the challenge. But AI enables us to do that now.
Mark, can I grab that note and say, if we're going to rely our analysis on data, and I meet a lot of different companies out there, some do not all have quality data. And we are going to depend our AI analysis on poor data, and we know that AI can give a bit, let's say, not correct answers, if you can put it like that. Is that a problem? And how do we make sure that everyone, let's say, have the fundamentals in place before we put AI on top of it?
I mean, rubbish data in gives rubbish data out. That was the old truism. And I think
it was in American English. It was garbage in, garbage out. I think the British version is rubbish data in, rubbish data out. Yes.
But if you look at the algorithms now in place, and you look at the latest sophisticated AI machines and tools, they're able to spot that garbage and correct it. If you look at Yarden's, I mean, Orca is a quite exceptional piece of kit. That has a corrective function and will spot the anomaly. And that's what makes it intelligent. So I think we're operating, our understanding of AI is not sufficient compared to the technicians, where it really is intelligent enough to spot the data. Our performance optimization control room, even where it relies on noon reports, will correct the anomaly sent by a chief officer who puts a 7 instead of a 1. It will spot that and correct it. That's what it's all about.
I think just piggybacking on what Mark just said, I think for digitization, a lot of the AI tools to truly make an impact, I think what's important is we meet the reality of an operator, a ship owner, a ship manager, a customer, an individual, where they are. I think it's easy for us to say, hey, let's have perfect data, let's have gigabytes or terabytes of high-frequency data available before you can start to make an impact. I think the onus is on all of us as technologists in the room to bring that technology to be where the starting point is. And if the starting point is noon reports, how do we start working with that to demonstrate some real value where a customer who's deploying that technology can see dollars and cents drop to the bottom line, and then that starts the cycle of greater adoption, and then you can start to feed in to say, okay, if you could do this with where things are, if you can enhance your data quality, if you can collect more data, we can paint the trajectory of where the improvements over time can be. So I really want to bring that back to, we need to meet the reality of the industry, an individual operator where they are, and bring technology to their world, their reality, rather than expecting people to go and meet technology where it is today or might be in 2 years from now.
Perhaps can I grab again that note? Yeah. Because, as I say, we see a lot of deviation here. There are people that are very advanced and people not so advanced. And if we all agree smart shipping is here in some form or the other, what are the barriers? Why are people not picking it up? What, is it the cost? Is it the processes? Is it the crew training? What are stopping the shipping companies from having this nirvana that we all are talking about?
Go on, Yarden, you haven't.
From the vendor perspective, I think that the first one was connectivity. Once you had connectivity, you can start collecting data. It's really changing the game. And I think now we're in the process. We see more adoption of technology, and that's great. Like when we started the company, we came to ship owners that they threw out of the roof. But now we see a different type of sentiment to it, and understand that they need to adopt it to stay competitive. Still, we are in the beginning of the process of the adoption. And I think it goes back to very similar to what Mr. Kapur said about purpose-built technology or productizing what you're offering. And once you have a product that drives tangible ROI, we see adoption. That's very clear. When you see a product that is not driving tangible ROI, you see that it's not driving adoption, and we see that in the market in many areas where newcomers are coming and they're offering a lot. But eventually, when you try the product, you see that there is no tangible performance that is driving better results and better ROI. And this way,
from our experience, we invested a lot of money in our performance optimization control room, and we've adopted partners like OneLink to do the whole optimization piece for our clients. From our perspective, the single factor, or single two factors that put clients off technology and optimization is this perceived cost. Everyone thinks it's going to cost a fortune. And when we tell them it costs $600 per vessel per month, and within the first day, coming to your point, Abs, you'll see the thousands of dollars because it is clocked up at the bottom of the screen how much you're actually saving by turning that auxiliary engine off, because you don't need 3 auxiliary engines on, and the master's being contacted by the control room. When you see the cost savings, everyone says, well, I make my money back in the first 4 hours of having this technology. I save X tons of fuel by using these optimization tools. So cost is a big factor. The second is monetization. You need to show the clients, the customers, what they're actually saving per day, and this is this drop-down function, which is fantastic. And I think the last point is every one of us is being bombarded with different solutions, how to do this, how to do that better, different digital tools, different optimization tools. And from a CEO's perspective, I just think, I've got to train my people not once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Now there's another platform out there that is all singing, all dancing, and I've got to retrain my poor technical superintendents to use that. That's why we went to a supplier called OneLink, that all of these, whether it's route optimization, whether it's engine preventive maintenance, whether it is any of the other optimization tools that we have on that one, it's all the same training. It all looks and feels the same, and that's the key. You only want to train your people once. So that puts people off as well. So keep it simple, because most of us are dinosaurs in this world, and we've got to get our heads around this, and we've got to get our very busy technical superintendents and crew superintendents to invest time on training to use these platforms properly. Otherwise, we're just wasting our money.
I said I would agree with Mark. I can't agree with you on the dinosaurs, but I want to harp to that couple of very, very good points. Number one, as a CEO of a tech company in this space, one of the biggest ones, there's about 5,000 vendors in the maritime space. 5,000 vendors. I'll say it again, 5,000 vendors. So, Mark, I hear your pain. It's really hard to know who's who in the zoo. And every other day there's another. And by the way, if you take the compiled revenue of all the tech companies in shipping and trading and logistics, let's just throw it all together. $800 million a year, maybe 700. So I think fundamentally you need to understand it's a very small space in the grand scheme of things, Mark, if you put it in the Fortune 500 companies, right? But a very specialized space. So people like Mark and customers, I think, are overwhelmed by multiple platforms with I think, niche functionalities. By the way, that's what we think there's an opportunity a bit to consolidate that. So that's, I think, one very important point. I completely agree with you. Second important point is people don't get the data modalities, and I want to just contribute something to the conversation. There are 3 types of data. There's your data. There's data you buy currently from third parties, and there's public data. And I think people don't necessarily understand the difference between these. You probably need to combine all 3 to win, because nobody has all the data they need, and I think that's where AI is making a big difference, combining these 3, insulating them, protecting them, and so forth, and giving everybody their own view. Basically, your data becomes your advantage, and I think the misunderstanding of that as well also, I think, is also a big barrier. But please, Kyle.
Yeah, if I can jump in.
Yeah.
And to answer the question, I suspect, I don't know, I suspect the answer to the question is the reason why things are not going in the direction that we're talking about here is because most people have a lot on their plate, and they're maybe day to day too busy putting out fires to attend the AI party on the other side. And I must say as well that IT in shipping has been getting more and more complex. Now, when you start talking about digitalization and AI, it's massive complexity. And the funny thing that we're talking about now, we have all this information, but there's still more information out there. And I remember 10, 15 years ago being part of a project to actually try and enable telemetry coming from containers, just normal 20-foot containers, 40-foot containers, getting that information back to a hub on board the ship and then getting it off the ship. It was a mammoth project.
It's not that easy.
It's not easy. RF-wise, it's extremely hard when you're dealing with basically a massive Faraday cage, which is the stacks of containers. But, you know, one day I believe we will get there. There are technologies that can be used, and it's, you know, like we're talking about with comms. What was impossible 5 years ago is now extremely possible, and we will get there. And that mass of information, and I agree with what was said by Mark as well, we will need help on this. So for me, AI is the only way you're going to, you know, wade through this ocean of data coming from the average ship. But yeah, it's a lot, and I think that's the key answer right now. There's just a lot of it, a lot to deal with.
Lars, back to your question. To me, there's two things as to what's holding people back. One, I think Mark said it quite well. The industry obviously is spending a lot of capital. I mean, these assets are extremely valuable, millions of dollars of capex value, tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of daily charter rates, bunker consumption, depending on the vessel type, you're talking again millions in terms of annual consumption. I think what's lacking is not in theory, but in practice, saying if you deploy a certain tool, what does that do to your bunker consumption? What does that do to your return on asset? Does it increase by X%? What does that translate to in terms of real dollars on a daily or monthly basis? I think the moment that link is very clear and demonstrated, I think the adoption of the technology becomes a lot easier. So that's at the first level in terms of the decision makers, whether those are the owners, the CEOs of the businesses. And I think the second piece is then at the human operator level, making that technology intuitive and easy to use. And to the point I think has been raised by Mark and others, let's not overcomplicate the plate of an individual operator where they need to think of context switching between 16 different screens and 5 different software platforms. How do we make it intuitive and easy so that the technology is alerting people to say if your vessel is deviating against plan or if your bunker consumption is increasing above what thresholds you've set, there will be a prompt, there'll be an aid, rather than expecting the individual to learn a lot of different tools. So I think clearly demonstrating the dollar value, making life easier, as we say, the best AI or the best form of digitization is something that an individual operator doesn't even notice. And I think that's the threshold, or that's the goal that we should all be shooting for.
By the way, I don't know if I agree with that statement. I actually disagree with that statement. Like, I think just coming up with big statements, the best AI is something you don't, I don't know. You know, ChatGPT has about 1 billion users right now. Do you not feel it's AI?
So let me challenge that. Do you actually have to go on YouTube video and learn how to use ChatGPT? You don't. You intuitively get there and you use it. That's the point I'm making.
But that is an AI tool. Right? That's human intelligence. Maybe what you're trying to say is that the interface doesn't need you to change how you work. I get it, but the best AI is something you don't notice, and I'm not sure I agree with that. I think predictions, capabilities, PhD level in your pocket.
I mean, I don't think we're disagreeing. What I'm saying is, from a user standpoint, let's not overcomplicate the jargon or the complexity for the user adoption. I think that's where I'm coming from.
I agree with that.
Let's stop that part now, because for me, if you have smart shipping, one important aspect, and you mentioned 5,000 suppliers or vendors in this market, is standardization. At the moment, there's a lot of silos. Sometimes you integrate them, sometimes you don't integrate. There's a lot of stakeholders that need to access those data. Maybe bring them from the vessels to the port and so on. A lot of data has to flow around. And there's almost no standardization whatsoever in this business. How do you look at that? And Mark, don't steal all the time here, but your comments are welcome now.
'Twas ever thus. I mean, data is the genie. The genie is out the bottle, and we have to shackle it and keep it on a tight leash and use it rather than being used by it. Sounding rather odd here, but it's a fact. So that's why I said right at the beginning, with AI, the most important aspect of AI for all of our companies is governance. And it's such an exciting tool. Coming back to this discussion that just took place there, it's such an exciting tool. All of our employees want to get straight onto ChatGPT because it is intuitive. And hey, guess what, Mr. CEO? I've just come up in my lunch break with an innovative way that we can better plan our crew changes. And I'm thinking, oh no, great initiative, but stop. We have to really govern this, and that's why all of us need to invest in governance, and all of us need to invest in captive AI environments, because this genie can put us in the bottle if we're not careful.
So you know that Andre Karpathy, who's one of the kind of leaders of AI in the world, talks about him and Benedict Evans gave a really good 2 lectures. I think it's a really interesting talking point. We're seeing for the first time ever a technology that is adopted by consumers faster than businesses. Actually, internet was exactly the opposite. And I think what we're seeing is also the behavior of us as consumers being imported to the business. So my own view, for what it's worth, Mark, is I actually don't think you can limit people. I think the reality is super efficiency and super tools will always win no matter what policies you put. And I think the only way is to enable your people and give them great tools which are secure. And I think it's a really important point. We are all consumers, but then we go to our business, and maybe the business is not necessarily keeping up with how fast ChatGPT is, or how fast Perplexity is, Gemini, and I also want everything now. And maybe it's also not the same quality, because as a consumer, maybe you give me a wrong recommendation for a restaurant, no harm done, I don't order the steak. But if you give me the wrong values of the engine, maybe I burned twice the fuel, and maybe there is a big deal. So I think these are fundamental issues as leaders you need to talk about, which is consumer behavior and data security, and I completely agree with you, Mark. But I think we all need to understand humanity is changing. I think MIT published an article, and they're showing that people are thinking less because of AI, not thinking more, because you can just get the answer. So I think we're becoming, as humanity, more dependent on tools. We don't necessarily need to put on the effort and think about it. Just think about it. I think it's the next level for Wikipedia. When I was a student, I had books. Then we had Wikipedia. People copied from Wikipedia. Now people copy from ChatGPT. We need to make sure they know how to think.
Coming back to standardization, coming back to the question, I think it is really important. And the funny thing for me, sorry to cut in there, but the important thing for me is this scenario has come up before in maritime. And I cast my mind back, I think, about 15 years when we had the debate with ECDIS about S-mode. And the problem was we didn't have a standard. And we had a lot of issues, accidents, you name it, because of the non-standardization in S-mode. And then there was that big lobby to get a standard mode into ECDIS. And I was attending an event here in London, and this debate was raging at the time. And a lot of the industry, like operators and standards people, were saying, it's the fault of the manufacturers. They keep making things different. Every single manufacturer makes things different. It's terrible. It's their fault, their problem. And a very brave man from a company I won't mention put up his hand and said, yes, you're absolutely right. It is in our DNA to create something called a USP, a unique selling point. We will always strive to have our unique selling point. So, right now we're talking about we need standardization, but I dare say there's a lot of companies in here looking at the situation and trying to develop their unique selling point, which means you get diversity. Diversity is good, standardization is good. How do they clash? I think the way forward is managing these things, setting up beforehand expectations of certain levels of standardization so that we can provide a guiding path, even a guiding light, sounds a bit too high level, but basically pushing people in the right direction and understanding the players that we're dealing with. Companies, commercial companies that want to make money will always try and develop their USP, but the right path, we need standardization. And I think the other key thing about standardization, which we always need to keep our eyes on, is, in a dynamic marketplace, you have choice. Without standardization, choice is extremely difficult. You can't move from one system to the other because you're bound to that technology. You're bound to that technology. It's very hard. You have to basically unbolt yourself from that selection and, come back and bolt yourself in a new selection. With standardization, we don't have those kind of problems. It makes things more difficult, potentially, for commercial companies because they always want to lock you in, but it does maintain that level of innovation.
So
Thanks a lot. Can I just interrupt? There are only a few seconds left. Just a final remark from all of you. I'm sure there's a lot of leaders, managers, owners here seeing AI as nirvana, but also very worried. How do I jump on that train? So just a final advice. Are you waiting for the technology providers? Do you need to do something internally? What do you have to do? It's a very complex question that needs a simple answer. So, Amy, can you take it?
Yeah, CEO's in charge. If you're the CEO, if you're the owner, you need to figure it out. So I welcome any CEO owner. Give me a ring, drop me a line on LinkedIn. Let's have coffee for 30 minutes. It usually takes less than 30 minutes to figure it out. If you give it to your people to figure it out, they're not going to transform your company. The buck stops there, my friends.
Yes, so actually the comment is also something that I want to finish with. So what Hami said and also what Kyle, in terms of being a CEO of a shipping company, if you're putting the policies or not. So I think in general, you want to put the policies in terms of how you're using AI. I think that it's sometimes going to work, sometimes not, but I think what we see is that, the shipping industry is a mission critical industry where eventually you need to take a ship from point A to point B. You need to have some standardization, you need to have some kind of policies on how to use AI because the impact can be huge. We do it internally, working with regulations and also classification societies. We didn't touch on that in the discussion. I think that's a super interesting discussion by itself, but I think we're in very interesting time. I think we're through the process of adoption. I think the industry is going through massive transformation. It's cool to be here and be part of the group here that is leading that.
There's no doubt AI is going to be important, but I also think that humans are going to be important as well. And I take my brief from the aeronautical industry. For many years now, you've had this scenario where in the aeronautical industry and aircraft design and aircraft that you probably all came to this country in at some time or another, there is automation in those aircraft, and there's been a massive move in the aeronautical industry to basically have man and machine working together, and I have no doubt we are about to see, some startling things come out of AI. But we've already commented, sometimes AI can do some rather unpredictable things as well. And I think now, at least for the next 5 years or 10 years, AI doesn't have morals. And I always think of, thinking about this kind of development. I love making movie references. I, Robot, Will Smith, and the one reason Will Smith hates machines is because the accident he was in where he was in a car, there was a child in the car and him in the car, and a robot jumped in to save them. The robot immediately programmed the probability of either of them living, decided he was going to live or had a better probability, so the robot saved Will Smith, which he then had to live with the guilt. Fantastic movie, you should check it out. But that was a very clear, concise Hollywood demonstration of how man and machine are not the same. So we still do need that cooperation in the future, and I think it's going to be very important moving forward.
Very quickly, those of you who weren't here when Chris Riisberg gave his speech, I think it will stand out as probably the most important speech of this week. You can whisper it. The runway for the widespread adoption of alternative fuels has just got longer, and I would venture a whole lot narrower. And as Chris said, and I think Harris said on the panel thereafter, optimization tools, software available on the market now, like some of these gentlemen on this platform, like OneLink that we use, is going to be a vital, vital step towards achieving those initial, rather perhaps more modest decarbonization goals that we're all setting ourselves. But alternative fuels runway's got a whole lot longer.
I realize we are way above time, but I think just two quick comments from my side. I think ultimately technology is an enabler. It's not an end in itself. And whether it's some of us who are developing technology solutions, or more importantly, many of you in the room who are making decisions on what technology solution to adopt, I think ultimately we need to think about where is the money? And the question all of us need to be asking is, show me the money.
Thanks a lot, and sorry to Capital Link for going a little bit over time. You see, these gentlemen are very passionate about this topic, so thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.